Hello 3D printing friends. Elegoo has made good on their word and their multicolor canvas system is now available for the original Centauri Carbon. The price? Just $55 US. The pre-order page says it'll start shipping around the end of August 2026, and we'll get a look at it right after this. Okay, so today we've got the 4-color canvas upgrade for the original Centauri Carbon. Thanks to Elegoo for sending this over so we could check it out, and a special thanks to this video's sponsor, PCBWay. So let's talk about the upgrade process. The canvas upgrade is a bit involved, but it's also pretty clearly documented. If you dislike disassembly and can't contend with compact connectors, you'll probably want to engage the services of a friend who can. If nothing else, it's a good excuse to hang out and have some pizza and a tasty beverage or two. And the reason I say this is that on the toolhead, you're going to be removing and replacing and unplugging and plugging plenty of parts. And the printer's poop portal gets an upgrade too. Then you're going to be getting into the electronics underneath the printer for more poking, prodding, and plugging. The exact process varies depending on when your Centauri Carbon came off the production line. Newer editions have the 4-pin socket on the back for the canvas communications cable, or at least a hole for it. Older ones, like mine, you have to route the cable with the socket out the bottom of the printer. Then there's the bolting on of the spool holders and the canvas itself. And finally, there's a firmware update. But Elegoo has an upgrade video to guide you through it, and the PDF overview with timestamps really helps. In all, you're probably looking at a good 2 hours to get this installed. Now, before we see how it all turned out, and more importantly, how it performs, let's take a quick moment for today's sponsor, PCBWay. Most people know PCBWay for their high-quality, low-cost printed circuit boards, but they actually do a whole lot more than that. They also offer CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, flexible PCBs, and even full PCB assembly services if you want populated boards delivered ready to use. Whether you're building a one-off hobby project or getting ready for production, PCBWay can help you turn your ideas into real hardware. And if you'd like to check them out for yourself, there's a link down in the description. And now for the part of this upgrade that really matters, the multicolor prints. I loaded up 4 random spools of filament I had laying around. The process is identical to the way it works on the Centauri Carbon too. Put a spool on a spool holder and feed the end of the filament into the canvas where it gets pulled in part way. Then, on the printer's touchscreen, tell it the type and color of the filament. Lather, rinse, and repeat for all 4. So these first 4 prints were just to test and make sure the upgraded Centauri Carbon would be able to load each filament and print with it. In Elegoo Slicer, after synchronizing the filament info from the printer into the slicer, I added an Elegoo cube and set it to one of the 4 filaments. When it was done, I switched to the next filament and did it again. Each one took about 35 minutes or so, and the canvas was able to unload and load filaments and print the cubes without a problem. I had printed one of Smoggy 3D's knitted articulated foxes on the Centauri Carbon too, so I did it again. It took almost 4 hours to print. What can I say? I like this model. It's cute. This one uses white, black, and orange. For the black filament, I used a spool of Elegoo Black PLA that had the RFID tag on it, and I did this to make sure the canvas upgrade could read the tags and communicate the information to the printer. So, a quick tap of the filament spool against the canvas resulted in a beep, and then on the touchscreen, I simply told the printer which slot I was going to load it into. The white and orange filaments are ones I made right here at home with the M1 in my previous video. That orange is a pretty deep color, but I left the purge volumes unchanged in Elegoo Slicer to see how it would do. It came out great, and I don't have any complaints about the print quality. The white is very slightly tinted by the orange, but it's like that throughout the entire print, and it's actually kind of a cool effect. That said, if I was going to print it again with this specific spool of orange, I would definitely bump up the purge amount when switching to the white from the orange to get the orange fully cleared out of the nozzle. Next up is Coffee Cook's Colorful Tropical Parrot. It took just over 7 hours to print. This file had originally been created for a Bamboo Lab P1S, and I had some trouble with the way the colors were painted on the model. When I tried swapping them around a bit, I didn't get the result I expected. Honestly, I was probably overthinking it, but I wanted it to look correct in the slicer, so I ended up deleting all the painting and redoing it myself. Then, when I was adding supports, I missed adding them on this part of the wings, so that's why it's a little messed up there. Minus my mistake with the supports, I think it turned out pretty well. It's a nicely sculpted model, and I like it in these colors. Then I printed these little military vehicle card kits. This is Jerry's 1/100th scale Puma. I printed 4 of them at once, and that took about 5.5 hours. This little kit is pretty cool. Just cut the parts off the card with flush cutters and snap them together. For me, that took about 20 minutes. I needed to trim the clips that hold the bottom of it to the top, but a few extra snips with the flush cutters were all it took. Contrary to the model's description, the wheels don't rotate, but the turret does, so that's cool. Assembled, it's about the size of a Matchbox or a Hot Wheels vehicle. It's been a few years since I built a kit, and assembling this 1/100th scale model was 100% fun. I'll have to find a few more to build. I've printed fidget cubes before, but I saw these by Austin Voita, and I loved the textured surfaces on them. I printed the one with the hexagonal texture, and I used all 4 colors when painting it. So I've got black and yellow and red and green. Yes, my color choices are totally obnoxious, and no, I don't care. This model uses all 4 colors on every single layer of the print. That's a lot of color swaps, and that's why this took just as long to print as the Parrot did. But you know what? The canvas handled it like a champ, and the final result is really nice. Oh, real quick for those that don't know, single nozzle multicolor printers have to purge a lot of filament to push one color out of the nozzle so the next one prints cleanly. That means on prints where there are a lot of filament swaps, there's a lot of purge waste. In many instances, the amount of purge waste can exceed the amount of filament in a printed model by a significant amount. Just to give you an idea, here's each model I printed along with its purge waste. There are different ways to recycle this stuff. It can be used decoratively inside other prints, it can be melted down and poured into molds to make other things, or it can be ground up and made into new filament if you've got the equipment to do that. Everything in life comes with some sort of compromise, and purge waste is just a side effect of this particular printing technology. Uncle Jesse has some great videos with really cool recycling ideas, and I've got them linked in the description. When Elegoo launched the Centauri Carbon back around the beginning of 2025, they said a multicolor module would be available for it. A lot happened between then and now, particularly the Centauri Carbon 2 with Canvas. Given how the CC2's Canvas simply bolts on and plugs in, I sort of assumed the original Centauri Carbon's Canvas upgrade would be just as simple. But there's a lot of stuff that has to be replaced on the OG CC before it'll work with the Canvas. And you're going to spend a couple of hours getting it installed. Also, you lose the ability to run the printer completely closed. Elegoo doesn't appear to have a top hat for the CC like they did for the CC2, so once you go multicolor, you either run the printer topless or you DIY a top enclosure. That said, given all the parts that come in the Canvas upgrade kit, including the Canvas, the selling price of $55 US is an absolute steal. So if you're up for the challenge and you want to add multicolor printing to your original Centauri Carbon for not a lot of money, this may be just the thing. So that's the Canvas multicolor upgrade for the original Centauri Carbon. Thank you for watching, thanks to Elegoo for sending this over, thanks to channel sponsor PCBWay, and big thanks to everyone who supports the channel, whether with channel memberships or by using the links in the description. If you liked this episode, give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe so you don't miss new ones. Well, 3D printing friends, now that we're at the end, let's go print something cool.